In the late Western Han period, the opportunist Wang Mang committed a grave act of treason by usurping the Lu family's Han Dynasty and proclaiming himself emperor, founding the Xian Dynasty. He went against the course of history by weakening the traditional system of private ownership and forcibly implementing state control over land, resources, and industry and commerce. His perverse policies provoked strong resistance from nobles and commoners alike, sparking waves of armed uprisings across the country to overthrow the Xian regime. Among the rebels were also descendants of Liu Bang, the founding emperor of the Han Dynasty. Liu Xiu, 5 BCE 57 CE, was a ninth-generation descendant of Liu Bang. However, after more than 200 years, by the time of his father Liu Qin, the family's status had declined to that of a minor local official, serving only as a county magistrate of Jiang. More unfortunate still, Liu Qin died young. At just 9 years old, Liu Xiu and his siblings were left orphaned and without support. They were taken in and raised by their uncle Liu Liang in Kaiyang County of Nanyang Commandery. From members of the imperial clan, they effectively became ordinary commoners. Between 14 and 19 CE, when he was around 20 years old, Liu Xiu was recommended as an imperial student and gained the opportunity to study in Chang'an. There, he became a Taixueshing, student of the Imperial Academy, specializing in the Shangshu, Book of Documents. This education later made him one of the few emperors in Chinese history to have received formal higher learning. While living in the prosperous capital of Chang'an, Liu Xiu broadened his horizons and formed close friendships with fellow students such as Deng Yu and Zhu Yu. Both would later be counted among the Yuntai 28 generals, becoming key members of Liu Xiu's founding circle. Liu Xiu was a man rich in strategy and resourcefulness, and extremely cautious in handling affairs. His elder brother Liu Yan was quite the opposite. Liu Yan paid little attention to managing the family's livelihood, instead devoting his fortune, even to the point of ruin, to befriending heroes and men of ambition from across the land. Together with many members of the Liu imperial clan in Nanyang, he sought to take advantage of the turmoil to raise troops and pursue great ambitions. In 22 CE, Li Tong, whose family had engaged in commerce for generations and had become a powerful clan in Wan County of Nanyang Commandery, grew deeply uneasy after hearing the rumor, the Liu clan will be restored, and the Li clan will assist. The thought lingered constantly in his mind. Because his family was wealthy and lived in comfort, ranking among the most prominent in the locality, he had little interest in official life, and thus resigned from his post and returned home. At this time, forces were rising across the land, the Xiangjiang troops led by Wang Chang of the Green Forest Army, and the Xinshi troops led by Wang Quang. Nanyang was thrown into turmoil. Li Yi, a cousin of Li Tong, had always been eager for action. He discussed the situation with Li Tong, saying, "Now that disorder spreads in all directions and the regime of Wang Mang is on the verge of collapse, the Han Dynasty is bound to rise again." Among the Liu imperial clansmen in Nanyang, only the brothers Liu Yan and Liu Xiu are capable of embracing and uniting the people. "We should join with them to plan the great enterprise of overthrowing Wang Mang and restoring the Han." Li Tong smiled and replied, "That is exactly my view as well." It so happened that Liu Xiu was in Wan County. Upon hearing this, Li Tong sent his cousin Li Yi to invite him. Liu Xiu had already admired Li Tong as a man of integrity and refinement, so he went to meet him. When they met, the two found themselves in complete accord, feeling as though they had met too late. Li Tong then recounted in full the rumors he had heard. Liu Xiu was at first greatly surprised and said he dared not presume such things. At that time, Li Tong's father, Li Xiu, was in Chang'an. Liu Xiu glanced at Li Tong and said quietly, "If that is so, what about your father?" Li Tong replied, "I already have a plan." He then explained his scheme to Liu Xiu in detail. Once Liu Xiu fully understood Li Tong's intentions, the two reached an agreement and laid out their strategy. They planned that on the day of Liqiu, the beginning of autumn, taking advantage of the cavalry inspection, they would seize the officials Zhenfu and Liangqiu Ci, then use this as a signal to rally the masses and launch an uprising. Liu Xiu and Li Yi would return to Chongling to raise troops in support. Li Tong also sent his cousin's son Li Ji to Chang'an to inform Li Xiu of the plan. However, for unknown reasons, Li Ji suddenly fell ill and died on the journey, and Li Shou never received the message in time. Li Tong's father, Li Shou, was serving in Chang'an as a zongshi, an official in charge of imperial clan affairs. As Li Tong was preparing to launch a rebellion in Wanqing, he did not dare inform his father in advance, though Li Shou had heard some rumors. Later, as the situation grew tense and signs of trouble intensified, Li Shou sensed that something was wrong and began packing his belongings, preparing to flee. At this time, his fellow townsman and close friend, Huang Xian, who held the post of Zonglangjiang, gentleman of the palace, came to see him. After learning of the situation, he said, "The checkpoints everywhere are now so strictly guarded. With your tall stature, you would be conspicuous wherever you go, recognized at a glance. Where could you possibly escape to?" Li Shou replied, "Then what should I do? Am I to stay here and wait for death?" Huang Xian said, "I know you cannot control your son. Let me offer you a plan: report the matter to the emperor on the one hand, and on the other send someone to inform your son, telling him to flee at once." Li Shou replied, "What father would take the initiative to report his own son for plotting rebellion?" Huang Xian said, "Isn't that actually for his own good? If you report him, he will have no choice but to go into hiding, and then he will be unable to rebel at all. Right now, rebellions are breaking out everywhere, and many who have not truly risen in revolt are beyond the government's control anyway. In such a situation, he would actually be safer. Before long, the emperor is likely to issue a general amnesty, and then everything will be completely settled. But if you do not report him, and he truly rebels, wouldn't it become far harder to save him?" Li Shou asked, "Then will the emperor be able to forgive me?" Huang Xian said, "I still say the same thing, hasn't he not yet rebelled?" In the past, even when many people had truly risen in rebellion, their relatives, as long as they clearly declared themselves and cut ties, were mostly treated leniently by the emperor. "Your son has not actually rebelled yet. If you take the initiative to expose him now, I doubt the emperor will make things difficult for you." Li Shou followed Huang Xian's advice. On the one hand, he submitted a memorial to Wang Mang reporting that his son was preparing to rebel. On the other hand, he sent someone to inform Li Tong to flee. Strangely, however, many days passed after the accusation was submitted without any response at all. Every time Li Shou attended court, he expected the emperor to summon him or question him about it, but nothing happened. Finally, one day Wang Mang ordered Li Tong to step forward and, with a furious expression, asked, "Li Shou, do you know your son is preparing to rebel?" Li Shou cowed out and replied, "My unfilial son has been behaving improperly, and I had already noticed this myself." Wang Mang said, "Then why did you fail to report it immediately?" Li Shou was greatly alarmed and said, "Your Majesty, I submitted a memorial to report this to you several days ago." Wang Mang replied, "Where is your memorial? Why have I not seen it?" Li Shou became anxious and quickly said, "Please investigate carefully, Your Majesty. I truly did report it." Wang Mang angrily shouted, "Investigate." The eunuchs received the order and went to search for the memorial. The investigation took about half an hour. Li Shou knelt on the ground, not daring to raise his head, sweat pouring down uncontrollably, while Wang Mang sat above in a rage that would not subside. Finally, the eunuchs returned and reported, "Your Majesty, Li Shou did indeed submit a memorial several days ago. Because it had not yet been processed in time, it was not presented to you. It is now brought here for your Majesty's inspection." Wang Mang opened Li Shou's memorial and saw that it truly was a father accusing his son, stating that his son had been careless in his associations, consorting with criminals, and requesting local officials to strictly discipline him. How to deal with this matter gave Wang Mang some hesitation. At that moment, Huang Xian, serving as a Zonglangjiang palace gentleman commander, stepped forward to present a memorial, saying, after hearing that his son had behaved improperly, Li Shou did not conceal the matter nor attempt to flee. He strictly upheld the duty of a subject and took the initiative to report his own son to your Majesty. I ask your Majesty to recognize his loyalty. I am willing to escort Li Shou to Wanqing to persuade his son to surrender. If the rebellious son refuses to listen, then let Li Shou face north and commit suicide on the spot, in repayment of your Majesty's great grace." At that time, rebellions were breaking out across the realm, and many officials from influential families and imperial relatives were already implicated, making it impossible to handle everything thoroughly. Thus Wang Mang often found it convenient to take the path of least resistance and present himself as merciful. In this case, since Li Shou's son had not yet actually rebelled, but the father had already taken the initiative to expose him, pardoning such a person would indeed help win over the hearts of the people across the realm. After hearing Huang Xian's words, Wang Mang was somewhat moved. At that moment, Fei Xing, the Taijing Dafu, Grand Master of the palace, stepped forward and submitted a memorial, saying, "Regarding the case of Li Shou's son, Li Tong, I also have a report here. Please Your Majesty examine it." Wang Mang took the memorial presented by Fei Xing and opened it to read. It turned out to be a report submitted by Zhen Fu, the commander of the forward army. The document listed several accusations against Li Tong. He maintained close contact with the rebels of Chongling. He plotted strategies for the rebellion of his clansmen Li Yi, Li Song, and others. He himself had organized armed men and was preparing to rebel. They also planned to seize Zhen Fu and Liang Qiuci. A line in the memorial caught Wang Mang's attention. He asked, "Who is this Li Yi, who dares to call himself general of the five powers?" Dong Zhong replied, "At present, there are many rebels who have established their own titles. For example, in Xinshi there are Wang Kuang and Wang Feng, in Jiangxia there are Wang Cheng, Qing Dan, and Zhang Ang, all of whom call themselves generals. The rebels of Chongling not only assign themselves official titles, but also organize their troops strictly according to the structure of imperial armies, produce insignia, and even raise banners bearing the character Han." Wang Mang was shocked and said, "Did you not previously report that the rebel mobs had no organization and no formal structure, merely a disorderly rabble? How has it now become like this?" Fei Xing replied, "The most recent group of rebels, such as Lu Yan and Li Yi, are no longer like the ignorant masses of Fan Chong and Li Zidu, who rebelled merely to survive. These new men are sons of wealthy and noble families, well-versed in classical learning. Their rebellion is driven by deliberate ambition for treasonous and far-reaching change. Your Majesty must on no account be overly merciful toward them." Wang Mang flew into a rage and said, "Fei Xing is right. When displaced commoners rebel, it can be said they do so because they can no longer survive. But why would sons of noble and wealthy families rebel? Apart from plotting treason, what other explanation could there be? To tolerate such rebels will only bring endless future trouble. Drag Li Shou away and execute him immediately." Huang Xian quickly knelt down and pleaded, "Your Majesty, I am willing to stake my head on this. Li Shou harbors absolutely no disloyal intentions toward Your Majesty. I beg Your Majesty to show mercy." Wang Mang gave a cold laugh and said, "Just now you said you would escort Li Shou to Wanqing, acting as if everything were strictly official and proper. Now your true nature of forming factions and conspiring in rebellion is revealed. If I truly let you go to Wanqing, would you ever return? Since you have offered your head as guarantee for Li Shou, then hand over your head. Drag Huang Xian away and execute him immediately. Execute all of Li Shou's family in Chang'an without exception. And wipe out the entire Li clan in Wanqing." It is lamentable that Li Shou had originally been a law-abiding official serving in the central court, yet he was implicated and destroyed by his reckless son who rebelled in the countryside. Misled by ill-conceived advice, he walked into disaster on his own accord. In the end, the entire Li clan, both in Chang'an and in Wanqing, was completely exterminated.